Perfect. Well, I'm Michael Emilio.
I'm Nick Turner.
And today we're going to be talking about Steam video game sales analysis, data to knowledge. So to give you a brief background of what we did, we pulled a data set entered in by users of Steam on a website called Kaggle, where they just have a ton of data sets. And to analyze it, we did a dashboard, or created a dashboard on Microsoft Excel. So the objective of our project was to use descriptive and predictive analysis with roughly 200,000 customers' interactions throughout Steam, and we reviewed it to try to forecast what games would be bought most by people. And to briefly go over what predictive and descriptive analysis is, descriptive analysis is a summary of the data set, so the historical data that's already present, and predictive is basically extracting the information from the existing data set to predict the future outcomes. So by show of hands, does anybody know what Steam is here? A couple people? All right, cool. So Steam's the world's most popular PC video game platform. So it's essentially like an Xbox or PlayStation on your computer or laptop. And what you do is you download the desktop application, and through there you can go on Steam's website and you can download pretty much any kind of video game imaginable. They have some interesting ones that Nick will show us later on. And on there is games and contents to download onto the installed software. And the cool thing is too is that users have the ability to create their own video games or content and throw it on Steam. So it's kind of like creating an app on your Apple or Android phone and throwing it out there for people to use.
So throughout the Steam website, there are different genre of video games that people could purchase and play. These may include the action, adventure, casual, indie, racing, role-playing games, as in or RPG, simulation, sports, and strategy. Now, just someone from the audience, what do you think is the most played or purchased game on the Steam website?
Call of Duty.
Any other? Oh. Well, from our research that we found, a game called Dota 2 was the most played and purchased game. So we do have a little link to show what Dota 2 is. Dota 2 is basically a competitive game of action and strategy where players could create a pool of hundreds of heroes, make a team of 5, and it's basically they battle till there's one that's standing. So
we're going to show you basically how we did, or not how, but the data set that we used and what we did to do that.
So before we get to the dashboard where our pivot charts and our graphs are, we show you basically the meat and potatoes of how we solved for this. Before, we got all 200,000 customer interactions from the website Kaggle, where from there we created 5 columns, which was the user ID, the title of the game, the behavior, which was either they purchased or played it, and minutes, and the type of game, whether that's a downloadable content or DLC or the games. Now, if you don't know what downloadable content is, that usually involves the add-ons to certain games, whether that's outfits for characters, new maps, I guess if you're playing an action game, weapons. And we also added the customer column later on just to make it easier for the audience and for us to solve for the total outcome, or just to help us understand who's purchasing the most games or playing the most games.
Basically, to put a name on the face so you know who's who, essentially.
Yeah.
So we're going to show you our dashboard. So what a dashboard is, for those that aren't in the BI major or basically business in general, it is data visualization, which is basically showing our findings to you in an easy manner through graphs. So we'll go over a couple of the graphs that we have here. We have the top 10 most played by minutes, top 15 behaviors by customer, top 10 minutes played by customer, top 25 games per behavior, and then we have a couple analysis here on the bottom. So if we go over here, we have these little buttons, they're called slicers, and they will basically pinpoint the data that we want. So if we want to have the games that were played the most, we would click played in games. So right here is the graph that we're going to be talking about. And the games that were played the most, the first one was Dota 2. Second was Counter-Strike Global Offenses, and the third was Team Fortress 2.
From the information that we got, Dota 2 ended up having over 58 million minutes played, where Counter-Strike Global Offenses had over 19 million minutes played, and Team Fortress 2 had over 10 million minutes played.
And then to go off that, the top 25 games that are played most, of the top 4, those 3 are in it. Dota 2 was 1, Team Fortress was the second most purchased. The third was Unturned, which actually was not even in the top 15 of most minutes played per game. So it probably shows that the video game was not very good. And then fourth was Counter-Strike Global Offenses.
Some more information. Dota 2 ended up having 4,841 games purchased. Team Fortress 2 had 2,323 games purchased, and Unturned had 1,563. The similarities between the top games that were purchased and played, they're all strategy games. It just showed that due to this PC website, it seemed like most customers enjoyed the strategy games, whereas to the Call of Duty games or the sports games, or the action games, you can say. From there, we also, as we've talked about it, we have our top 15 behaviors of customers and our top minutes played by each customer. So it just shows the amount of games, or the amount of games that were purchased by the top people.
So we'll do a little in-depth analysis on the analysis of most behaviors per customer. So actually, if we go up top here, it'll show us that customer 1726 had the most behaviors. So he purchased and played the most of any other customer within the game, or platform, I should say. So if we go down here, we'll filter them out, do a little search. Clear our slicers. So down here it shows that Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War 2 was his most played or purchased game. So you might be asking, you can played, they only have statistics per person played once. So total of the amount they played per game, but they could have more than one behavior. They could have purchased the game twice for themselves or for a friend or relative, or they could have purchased downloadable content from the game as well. So he had 3 purchased for the Warhammer 40,000. And then to go back up top here, the most minutes played by anybody was customer 2082. And to show you an in-depth analysis of what he did, or what games he played, he only played 1 game. And on the scale that we have, the game that he played and the minutes that he played it in is nothing compared to the amount of minutes played overall. But the only game that he played was Sid Meier's Civilization 5 video game. And I believe the amount he played that, it's not going to show us on here, but it was, I think, about 7 million or 700,000
around that time. Then our last graph that we have is the percentage of the total sales of our downloadable content and our games. So as we showed you earlier is our slicer right here that shows, you can click on that. But from the total data that we have, it shows that only 5% of the products that were purchased through this website were downloadable content games, where 95% was the actual game itself.
So unfortunately, I know we were supposed to have predictions as well. Our predictions were not accurate that we came up with the limited data that we have. So we didn't really have dates or price per game, so we were kind of limited on what games we could predict. But we tried our best to predict the future Call of Duty games, but to be honest, it wasn't going to be accurate, so it wasn't really worth showing.
So a couple of interesting games that we came up that we thought you guys could think were pretty funny, or that we found were pretty odd. One of the games was the Roller Girls from Beyond. Basically, this game was a roller derby team protecting the Earth from evil scientists and aliens. The Egg Hunt VR was a virtual reality game where you're basically searching for eggs, like you would during Easter as you were as a little kid, or maybe some of you still, as adults, still look for eggs. And then the Grass Simulator, you were a farmer protecting your land from anything, cows or animals eating your grass. And then the most interesting game that we thought was, it's called I Am Bread. We have a small little link in a video to show you what this game was about. But basically, you are bread, and your mission is to become toast. So you would take on all these hazards and deliciousness as you head on an epic adventure to be baked. And basically, all the game modes, which included bagel race, or just as if we can get this video to show, the bread just kind of flops around the certain setting that you're in, and from there. So here's our video that we're going to show you.
And our acknowledgements, we'd like to thank Professor Tychek throughout our project. He helped us sort through the data and basically present what the meat and potatoes and what we should present to you guys. And also, for any business major out there that's not BI major, I would highly recommend taking the data analysis and business modeling course. You learn a ton about Excel, and most of the work we did today was from the class, stuff that we learned. So. Works side page. So, any questions?
I'm curious if you guys just have some brief descriptive stats of the data. This is a world that I'm not used to or comfortable in. You mentioned that the highest user by minutes only played one game. So I was curious, the average user of this site, do they play 15 games or 3 games or 2 games? I didn't know if you had anything just to kind of summarize this data set. And the behaviors of these people.
Well, we didn't really focus on that too much because the data that we pulled from were only entered in by people that use the website, or not use Kaggle, but were open to the public about sharing their information. So it wasn't 100% accurate on behaviors that these individuals would do. And also, we didn't have really a timetable, and we tried to estimate it, but it was pretty hard to know when this data was most recently entered and late, or the earliest that it was entered in. So we didn't really want to go out and pinpoint certain behaviors like that because we know that probably wouldn't be the most accurate. So we're just kind of trying to summarize the data as a whole that we had. Well, if there's no more questions, or you want to come up and ask us individually, that'd be awesome. But if not, thanks for coming out and have a good day.
How he does. Well, or he'll just, I have that, we'll give him more.